everything you shoot here, you earn. You can't just walk up and expect to shoot something at that water hole under that tree. The wind's against you. The ground cover's against you. And these pigs have been hunted for 40 years.
Yeah.
Even the bulls here, like the wild cattle here.
Yeah.
You don't get away with nothing. You move wrong, you go to draw your bow wrong, you move too fast, you move your head one way, you sure fly. Swat a mosquito. It's over.
These are stories of outdoor adventure and expert advice from folks with calloused hands. I'm James Nash, and this is the Six Ranch Podcast. For those of you out there that are truck guys like me, I want to talk to you about one of our newest sponsors, Decked. If you don't know Decked, they make bomb-proof drawer systems to keep your gear organized and safely locked away in the back of your truck. Clothes, rifles, packs, kill kits can all get organized and at the ready so you don't get to your hunting spot and waste time trying to find stuff. We all know that guy. Don't be that guy. They also have a line of storage cases that fit perfectly in the drawers. We use them for organizing ammunition, knives, glassing equipment, extra clothing, and camping stuff. You can get a 2-drawer system for all dimensions of full-size truck beds, or a single drawer system that fits mid-size truck beds. And, maybe best of all, they're all made in the USA. So, get decked and get after it. Check them out at decked.com. Shipping is always free. When do you wear shoes versus not wearing shoes? Just talking life in general here.
Well, I sort of don't wear shoes when I'm stalking.
Uh-huh.
When it's crunchy.
Yeah.
Because I can hear, like, my shoes are crunchy as, like, them Crocs.
Yeah.
But I think
You hunt in Crocs a lot.
Yeah, I do, because I can slip them off.
Yeah.
Easy. Quick. Easy. If they get wet, your feet dry. Yeah, left and right. I think, like, I've got a good pair of going out Crocs, like town Crocs. And I've got a pair of hunting Crocs. I wear Crocs in the workshop. I weld with them. I oxycut in them. I build stuff in them. And I think I've only got another 1 set of shoes or 2 set of actual shoes.
Yeah.
But Crocs go everywhere.
You walk barefoot into gas stations.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a normal thing here.
Yeah.
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 I'm just trying to establish the win.
The win.
What's shoe worthy and what's not?
Oh, mate, whatever. When I think,
Yeah.
I just do it whenever.
Tell me about your neighbor.
So, born and bred in Cape York, and he's probably mid-60s.
And Cape York is a peninsula that is in the northeast corner of Australia. Yeah.
Yep, that's right. Far north Queensland.
Heads up towards Papua New Guinea.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, born and bred Cape Yorkian, and he's only got 1 set of shoes that he wore to court one time.
In his life.
In his life, in his mid-60s.
Yeah.
I've seen him walk across fresh burn, like where a fire's just burnt, and he's like, oh yeah, that's all right. Seen him muster, no shoes. In the yards, no shoes. In the workshop, no shoes. Just no shoes at all.
Yeah.
And it was funny.
I love it.
It was funny. I went down there one time, and I think it was for a party, or I had to go see him about something, and like it's a 3-hour drive to go see my neighbour. Like it's 70 kilometres.
And he's your closest neighbor?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can either, it's 3 hours the main road, or it's 3 hours going down the bush track.
Yeah.
Is what it is. So I'll get down there, and he's putting moisturiser on his feet. And I go, geez, mate, what's going on? And he goes, oh, I just got tender feet, eh? Like, his feet look like Ronald McDonald. There's just calluses everywhere. Like, Like, yeah, just got a skin on him. Like, they're hard as, and he thinks he's got tender feet.
Yeah. Yeah. I did pretty good the other day until we got on that super hot sand. And, the ground, texture of the ground, stepping on even the hard stuff, the limbs, stuff like that, I'm fine. But, man, when it started getting hot, I was like, I need to get out of this. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it can hurt your feet if you got soft feet and you're used to wearing shoes all the time and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here we are, day 4. We got 2 days to catch up on. Let's start with yesterday, because after I got my bull, you were up to bat, so to speak, or what would they say in cricket?
Yeah, you're into bat, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we done it hard yesterday. I think
It felt hard.
Oh, it felt hard. Like we found bulls. Well, we just found bulls in the wrong spot.
You do 6 or 7 stalks yesterday?
Yeah, 6 or 7, I reckon. On mature bulls, and just couldn't get it to happen. I'd get to, 45, 40, 45, 40. You just get into that zone, and then either the wind would change, or another bull would pick you up, or a cow would be over here, or a bird would fly off, or something. And it was just like, oh, yep, here we go again. We'll just keep trying.
Yeah.
So, yesterday was pretty uneventful for action. Got plenty of time of moving slow.
Right.
Plenty of time of shuffling and just 1 foot forward, and
it was
ultra slow.
beastly hot yesterday too.
Oh, it was. Like, we've been going through a lot of water each day.
Yeah. I'm drinking about a gallon and a half a day.
Yeah, what's that in litres?
6 liters, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing average 10 Ks on foot
Yep.
a day, and it's like 40 degrees, so.
Which is 100 degrees in American. So yeah, yesterday was pretty frustrating in a lot of ways, because we were seeing these opportunities, but it also they weren't ideal. And I think that's there's really two ways that you could approach that problem. One is you just try. Right, there's a bull, and it might happen.
Yep.
If the wind holds up, and if he turns the right direction, and nothing else sees you, like, this could work.
Yep.
But they're low percentage opportunities.
Yeah, that's right. Like, but if you don't try, you don't know.
Right.
And that's where you get better as well, and go, oh, next time I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
Or next time I'm going to do this different.
And it's a real finesse game. Something that I've been practicing more and more that I haven't done in the past, because I haven't done a lot of this style of hunting with archery where it's spot and stalk on open flat ground, right? Just not something that I've done hardly any of in my life. And what you're constantly reminding me to do is to range the animal, and then range a tree on the near side of it, so I know if I get to that tree, then this is the yardage that I'll be at, and I won't have to reach for my rangefinder again.
Yeah.
That's making me do math on my feet in a situation that's already stressful, a long ways from ideal. But definitely an effective thing that has gotten easier for me as the days go on. And initially when I'm ranging 3 or 4 trees and kind of setting up a range band and getting in my mind what 20 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards looks like. Something that's also been very interesting to me is, depending on the tightness of the terrain, 30 yards looks very different in different scenarios.
It always does. And
Yeah.
then if you have missing ground, it always does
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Something that my platoon commander used to preach to us when I was in the basic school was that a GPS was for confirming your location, and a map and compass was for you to figure out where you are, but you need to do that first. And I think that a lot of times we fall victim to the technological capabilities of some of these devices, and you become reliant on it. So, rather than saying, okay, I think that tree is 27 yards, and then hitting it with your rangefinder to see, and starting to build up that skill in your eyes and in your mind, you're just going, okay, I'm going to use my rangefinder every time. And there's a lot of these scenarios when you're in tight that you can't afford that extra movement, and you've got a release in your hand. What do you do with that? The release is going to clank against the rangefinder and make a really scary sound. So doing that work when you're at 50 yards and knowing, okay, if I make it to this tree, which is 20 yards away, and that tree is 30 yards from the animal, even if the tree's offset a little bit, it's still going to work out,
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, you just don't get reliant on them devices.
Yeah.
Because one day there'll be something once in a lifetime and whatnot, and your rangefinder might not work.
Sure, batteries die.
Batteries die.
Every single one of them.
And as you say, the closer you get to an animal, I like shooting stuff close. I like getting close. But once you're getting close, and especially on flat country, even in the hills, in the mountains and stuff, that's just one less movement you don't have to do.
Yep.
If you can just look over and go, yep, look, I'd shoot that tree at 20. He's going to come past it, 5 yards past it. He'll be 25.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I do. I just work my 20 out, and then I go, okay, well, that ant mound's 10 yards up past that.
Yep.
And I might be 1 or 2 out, but then that comes into the arrows and the gear that you're using. It's a forgiving setup. So if you're out 1 or 2 meters or yards, that it's not dropping out of the kill zone.
Yep.
You're still in there,
Yep.
So that, I think, I see a lot of boars get shot with the rangefinder and not the bow. Getting in close, and that movement where you've pulled the rangefinder up and clicked and then put it down could have been when you drew.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden he props or something, then that's when you could have released, but then that's when they try and draw and then the ball blows out.
Yep.
It's trying to be 5 steps ahead or 2 steps ahead.
The Six Ranch Podcast is brought to you by Nick's Handmade Boots, a family-owned company in Spokane, Washington. For many of my listeners, you have waited and prepared all year for this. Whether your pursuit is with a rifle or a bow, early or late season, big game or birds, another hunting season is finally upon us. Nick's Boots and the Six Ranch want to wish you luck as you head out into the field. This season, I'm wearing the Nick's Boots Game Breakers, beginning with the archery elk season. Having worn this boot throughout the summer around the Six Ranch, I continue to be impressed with how quiet the boot is. The rough-out leather laces, and 365 stitch-down construction create a simple boot that is supportive, durable, comfortable, and most importantly, quieter than most synthetic hunting boots. For 60 years, Nick's has been building work boots for wildland firefighters, tradespeople, hunters, and ranchers, as well as heritage styles for anyone who values quality footwear made in America. Visit nicksboots.com today to find your next pair of high-quality American-made work boots. Add a pair of boots and a work belt to your cart and use the code 6RANCH. That's the number 6 and the word ranch to receive the belt for free. And laser marksmanship is a real thing with rangefinders too. So a tip that I'll give folks, since we're talking about it, the first time that you hit your rangefinder button, try to shoot past the critter and then bring your laser down to it. So especially if you have a rangefinder that can range continuously, shoot past them first and then drop it down into them, and that will give you a much more accurate range than just the one click, because a lot of times rangefinders might not be calibrated correctly. You might be shaking in your hand a little bit and you'll shoot past them. And if the range that you're getting doesn't jive with what you assumed that it would be, what you were guessing, you need to mash on that button a couple more times and make sure that you're not hitting a branch on the way there. Make sure you're not hitting something that's beyond the target, and go ahead and confirm that. But laser marksmanship is important. Okay. moving on to today. Totally different day. Tried a different approach that you and I talked about last night, and it was pretty promising this morning. But talk me through that a little bit.
Yeah, so we headed out a little bit earlier this morning. We both got a V into us to
Little energy drink.
Little energy drink just to pep us up. And we done our morning cruise, what we've been doing in the vehicle, and looking at what buffalo are out still feeding. We spotted sort of one bull out in the distance, and it looked like he was going to water where we'd talked about sitting on the previous night. So what we were going to, what ended up happening is the plan that we talked about. We went and sat on this spring system that's up on the edge of the escarpment that the buffalo have been coming in and out to water at about 9:30, 10 o'clock. So we get in on that spring system about 7:30, I think it was. Yeah, something like that. And we could see buffalo sort of all around us about 250 to 400 out.
Yeah.
And we just thought, surely one of these bulls has to walk in and get water. And we spent quite a bit of time there. You seen your first snake sitting on a...
Yeah.
You thought it was charging you, and it was coming to have a look.
So, everybody knows about snakes in Australia and how, 100 of the world's 50 most dangerous snakes are all here or whatever. Freaking just sitting there peacefully on a log, and this snake, bigger than my future, rears up and just speeds towards me specifically.
It was a little one.
It was not little. That thing was massive and so fast.
It was 3 foot.
I think you're getting feet and meters confused, which is understandable. But anyways, I very calmly, said some choice words, backed off to give this snake as much space as it needed to, was, looking for a hand grenade or, anything else that would be suitable for the occasion. And you picked up a palm frond and just started whacking at it as it crawled underneath of you and then crawled inside of the log you were sitting on.
I wanted to see what kind of snake it was.
I did not. And they're all the same kind of snakes to me.
We figured it out. It was a tree snake. And they're harmless.
I don't know if that's correct. I think that was a taipan.
It was not a taipan.
It was terrifying. And I handled myself really well given the situation.
So after James screamed like a girl, all the buffalo
That's not true. I was relatively composed. We did have, when we were split up, when you went up towards the escarpment to check out what was at the head of that spring system, there was 2 bulls that came down a trail and were basically coming in between us. And one of them was going to come past me at 18 yards. And he wasn't an old bull, but I was ready to give him the smoke, man. And he ended up cutting up and going uphill. The other bull actually walked into those palm trees that was down below us, and I didn't know where you were. I thought he was going to walk right into you. I knew it was smaller than anything you were looking for, but I had sent it. But that was a fun morning. It was a lot more calm and relaxed, and it was we had slow, steady action all the way around us.
It was, and we had we had a few bulls bed out on the flat.
Yeah.
And another older fella off, and it was sort of which one do we go for? The same thing, minimal percentage, but you've got to give it a go.
Yeah.
And it was okay, we'll have a crack at this, and if not, we'll go and find something else. So
yep.
Well, I get halfway to them bedded bulls, and they decide to stand up.
Yeah.
And walk away.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just can't win a trick. That was 10th stalk or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well. We went back to the truck and started cruising again.
Go find another.
Yeah. Which we did. We went down to the other waterhole where we've been seeing some good mature bulls, and lo and behold, there was an absolute monster in the water.
Yep.
So we kept cruising, and you spotted another one in underneath the tight brush as well, which was a really good bull as well, broomed off on the tips. So we had 2 shooters on this other water hole and probably, what do you reckon, half a dozen younger bulls around us.
Yep.
Anyway, we kept driving in the ute, cruised around so we could get the wind right, and off we go again. We're up to plan O or P or something. Anyway, we get in there and we spot this real old bull, and he's standing in a awesome spot for a stalk. Like I've got just shrubs in like for cover, and it was all good. The wind was good. We get there and I was like, oh, this is too good to be true. And then we look over and yep, there's a younger bull standing there, 50 yards away from us that I had to try and get past.
Yeah.
And it was like, this ain't going to happen, but I'm going to have to try it.
And like 45 yards away, right around the corner, is this wallow that we couldn't see into. And I thought I'd seen something, and I said, I think there's a buffalo in the wallow. And then some black birds came out of there, and I convinced myself that it was just a bird that I saw. And I said, I think it's just a bird. And right before you took off to start your final approach, you said, as long as there's not a buffalo in the wallow, this is going to work out. And then as soon as you get up there, the buffalo blows up out of the wallow, young bull, and he's 55 yards away from me. And I'm like, do I launch one right here and ruin your hunt? Or no, I'm just going to wait. So I waited, and you took off after that big one, which, again, didn't work out.
No, just didn't work out. So it was like, okay, we'll go. We had to go get some drinking water.
Yeah.
A fair way away. So we'll go for a cruise.
And drinking water is going to be out of a billabong or a stream here, which...
It's a spring system.
Yeah. You can know a couple things. One, there's probably a buffalo wallowing in it somewhere.
Definitely.
There's the water temperature's high, and there's probably a crocodile in it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. So
that's things that I think normal people don't have to worry about with their drinking water.
Yep.
And I'm trusting you here because I drank it, but you said people drink this water unfiltered all the time, and it's no dramas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's been filtered through its own sand and like its environment. It's got freshwater lilies in it and grasses and stuff. So
yeah.
We'll give it a go anyway.
We'll know in 10 to 14 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. We went and got drinking water, and on the way to get drinking water, we seen a bunch of buffalo.
Yep.
We seen a really big, he's probably just past his teenage years, but he was just a big lump of a buffalo with a mob.
Yeah, right next to a big water hole.
Yep.
Not really in a stockable situation, so cruised on past him, got our water, and we're coming back, and as soon as we cross this dry creek bed, which just has the prettiest sand in it. That sand is like pink or orange. Like I can't quite put my thumb on the actual color of it. It sort of looks like coral. It's just stunning.
Yeah, it's like it's dirt mixed with sand.
Yeah, but
it makes a color that's probably not like it's different for you.
Yeah, I mean it looks like Himalayan sea salt.
Okay.
Like pink Himalayan sea salt.
Yep.
And it's really coarse like that. I'm sure it's got some quartz in it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, really beautiful sand. So we come through that, and back on the road, I say, there's a buffalo. And you said, nope, that's an ant heap. I was like, yep, Roger, definitely. Keep going. And I was like, there's something. And I was like, please don't be an ant heap. And this one turned out to be a scrub bull. Talk to me about what a scrub bull is.
So scrub bulls are clean skin cattle. So they don't have a brand. They've never seen humans. They're feral cattle. They've never been sort of yarded. They're just like a pig and a buffalo. They're just a feral animal. So they run free.
What's
here.
their reputation like?
They can be cranky.
Yeah.
They're crankier than a buffalo, I reckon.
Yeah.
My opinion. Yep. Like
Okay.
they can both get cranky, but like that has been known to be charged by a scrub bull before you even get to stalk him properly.
Yeah.
You know, he might have been tampered with from humans before, been chased or tried to be mustered or something, and he knows how to get out of it by fighting. So yeah, but this one's not like that.
Yeah. Which turned out to be fortunate because we put a stalk on him, went up that beautiful sandy creek bed, and we had the wind right, we had good vegetation, and it was a pretty easy stalk. Like we cruised right on in there and just had trees in the right spot, and then he came towards us, got to 25 yards. I drew, took a shot, lethal shot, but a little ways back. He ran to, I'm saying 10 yards, 11 yards,
Yep.
and stared right through me. And I was like, not ideal.
I had the camera rolling, and I had a tree next to me. I was fine.
So I kind of maintained eye contact, reloaded another arrow, and as I drew, he was just taking off, and as soon as I hit my anchor point, I sent another one, and that shot was perfect.
Yeah, you pinwheeled him.
You know, that one, just went right exactly where I wanted it to, and yeah, he went, 15 yards maybe after that, and was done.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and he was a big old bull too. Like he was old.
Yeah, counted the annualized on his horns, and I have him at 10 years old.
Yep.
Now, this is not like any bovine ever seen before. He has a dewlap going down his neck that runs all the way down his belly. Huge hump on his back like a Brahma bull, but it's more like a ridge. It's not a big soft squishy thing like on a Brahma.
Yeah, he has a lot of, like, he is a sort of a Brahman bull, but he's just gone backwards. He's lost all his muscle.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could see all his bone structure.
Yeah.
At his feeding passes, all his shoulder blade and
And
his joints and ribs and
his teeth were down to the gums as well.
Yep.
So yeah, another just great animal to take. And,
yeah.
And it's kind of crazy to think about hunting cattle for Americans. Like that's nothing that we would ever come across, but that's a big deal down here.
It is. It's probably the most underrated game animal in Australia to hunt. They're smart, they're switched on, and they're fiery.
Yeah.
You we done well there, but in a lot of circumstances as well, you don't get away with much, especially when you've got like cows and calves.
Yeah.
They pick you up from a ways away. When you walk out into a paddock, if you're hunting deer, the first thing usually to pick you up in the paddock is cattle.
Yeah.
Their eyesight's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like hunting them. And very underrated, very underrated.
So, yeah, that was super cool. So now we're back on, right? We've regained the momentum.
Yeah, I've had like 11 or 12 stalks with an arrow on the string a couple of times, and you just sort of walk up to, well, not walk up, but pretty easy. Get in position. He feeds towards us.
It worked out.
And what?
Worked out great.
Yep.
So now as we're heading back past that water hole where we'd previously seen all those buffalo, I see scooting out across the flat what I initially thought was like, it looked like a bear, And I know y'all don't have like black bears, but it looked like a black bear.
Yep.
And a great big wild boar.
Yep.
And you were out of the truck before it had even stopped, had your bow, Crocs on, you were on a mission.
I was.
And I followed you for the first couple 100 yards, and this boar was kind of cutting in a semicircle to the left, and it looked like he was going to go into some thick cover and come out right in front of you, and have like a 20 or 30 yard shot. So I checked up and waited, because having more people on a stalk than is necessary is, not that important, and probably a detriment, especially if they're clumsy like I am. So I was expecting this pig to come across and you to smoke him. Well, it didn't, and you take off. I was like, oh, that's cool. So I'm just enjoying the wind in the trees and just looking at Australia being Australia, and head back to the truck and sitting there, and you're gone 45 minutes or so, and come back with a bloody arrow and a smile on your face. So what happened while you were gone?
So, yeah, after he went through that thick cover, I thought he was going to come across in front of me too, so I eased up, and he didn't. He changed paths, and off he went. And when them boars get on that walk, they cover some country. And even out on the flats, it must have been hot for him, or he just got on the trot a little bit. So I sort of jogged a little bit after him because I could see it. These are big burnt flats, so you can sort of see a long way, but heaps of trees and ant mounds. Anyway, I couldn't really foot him too much, get too close to him. He was just kept at a certain pace. And I thought, I don't know how long I'm going to follow this fella for, but I was looking at him and go, no, he's a good fella. He's a good ball. Anyway, I crack out to the left a fair's way so I could see him, and I start jogging to try and get in front of him so I can intercept him. And mind you, it's like high 30s.
Yeah.
Out there. It's hot. Anyway, he stopped to rub a couple of trees, and I thought, well, he stopped and I made some ground. And eventually I got around in front of him, and just before he was going to come past me, he stopped to rub a tree, and that was my point to take another 5 steps. Got beside this ant mound, and he come past me about, 15, 20 yards, and I smashed him.
Nice.
And he went 30 yards and rolled over, so I would, and he was a good ball, but we never got back to get a photo.
Yeah,
because I reckon he was a K or 1.5 Ks before I got around in front of him.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's really impressive how fast he was moving, especially given that he's a black, hairy animal in this heat. I would just be laying in the water.
Well, he was.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, we're out of here, and he had something else on his mind.
Yeah. So now you're back on. You've got your mojo back. Like, we've got all the momentum. Cruise on down the road, and we spot another big bull buffalo.
Yeah, we do.
But he's with a couple cows, and that has not been working out for us. But we're trying everything,
Yeah.
However, in this particular area, there are some bigger trees. There are some low brushy trees, and then a lot of big ant mounds, a lot of big termite heaps. So you're able to move pretty fast in there.
Yeah, that's right. Like I said to you as we were walking back down the road to see how close we could get to him, I said, I need him in this regrowth.
Yeah.
In some sections like that to cover his eyes. Anyway, at first, when we first seen him, I thought he was going to go down to the water, which was pretty open.
Yeah.
Anyway, to my surprise, he was feeding up on this ridge through all this regrowth, and I thought, you beauty. Anyway, there was a cow and a calf sort of with him. And I get into sort of probably 60 yards off, and I kick my Crocs off, so I'm bare feet now.
Mm-hmm.
And I work my way into an ant mound, and then work my way to a tree. And probably a good advantage that we had was the sun was in our backs, and it was sort of setting. It was going to be the last hunt or last stalk of the Arvo, So anyway, managed to slip into 25 yards, and he's gave me a shot, and put an arrow into him, and he probably went 30 yards.
And he went 30 yards, turned, and went back the other way, full tilt, smashed into a gum tree, and then fell over and was dead.
Yeah, that's right. He didn't know what hit him. He just.
Yeah. I've got a bunch of really good pictures of your stalk, of you shooting. You can see the buffalo behind you. For folks listening, I'm going to throw some of these up on Instagram. You can check those out. But very, very cool animal, cool hunt. Giant bull. Yeah. Over 3 feet wide, tip to tip.
Yeah, no, he's a real good bull. He's handy. He's my PB of buffalo and stuff.
And I've got him at 10 years old.
Yep. Yeah. And just goes to show that you have to keep going.
You got to keep trying.
Keep trying.
Last hunt of this segment of our trip. Here's some dingoes howling out there.
I thought there was dingoes howling, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too. So we've got dingoes howling around us. We've got another starry night under the southern sky. Mosquitoes and all kinds of gnats and bugs hanging out underneath the lights underneath the canopy of the Land Cruiser. We've got our normal fleet of cane toads out here creating a ruckus and hopping around. We've got 2 water buffalo skulls wrapped up and ready to strap to the ute, and we are starting about a 30-hour drive to Cape York tomorrow. And oh yeah, that's for sure dingoes.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. I don't know if you guys can hear them, but it sounds pretty cool. Got some historic stops to try and hit along the way. It sounds like all of which are pubs, which I'm excited about.
Yep.
And then we'll be on to the next leg of adventure at Kayuga Adventures in Cape York at Strathburn Station, and we'll be focusing there on pigs.
Yeah, we will. It'll be good.
Yeah.
Interesting drive. Some
Yeah.
stuff for you to look at.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Still trying to work up the courage to take over for a bit and drive on the left side of the road. I don't know if I've got it in me yet. Especially, man, when we're on these dirt roads and it's one lane and you see a rig coming. Like, everything in me says, like, peel off to the right, and there's a rig that's going that same direction. So I've got to fight my brain a little bit if I'm going to take that one on. Maybe once we get on the hardball, I can try a little bit.
Yeah, we'll be all right, mate.
Alrighty, folks. Well, that's going to be part 1 of this episode, and we will be back here very soon to talk with you a little bit more about pig hunting in Cape York. Thanks for following along, and make sure you're following Kayuga Adventures to see what they've got going on, and we'll have more stories from there coming up soon. Okay, so we are at Strathburn Station in Cape York. Where we left off, we were still in Arnhem Land, so we need to catch up a little bit on our trip.
Yep. So we I forget what day we done the last one.
I don't think it matters.
Okay. So we packed up camp and left pretty early in the morning. No TOs were there, so we went to say goodbye, but they weren't there. They were gone. And we made the 6-hour trip back to the highway. Yep.
So lots of dirt on that route. Stopped and got gas in one spot there, which was nice. And it was expensive, but it wasn't outrageously expensive. Like, they weren't like taking advantage of people like they might have.
I thought it was good price.
Yeah.
I was expecting way more. I was expecting like $3.10 a litre. Yeah.
So then we basically had 3 days of travel across from Arnhem Land here to Cape York, and came around an area that y'all call the Gulf. Saw a lot of country. A lot of it looked the same or similar, but
a lot of trees.
Yeah, but if you were paying attention, you could see the differences. And some really beautiful landscapes between here and there, and some really cool small cattle stations, and we stopped at a couple interesting pubs, like the Daily Waters pub and the Purple pub. Lots of characters in those. Had some good meals. It was great.
Yeah. I donated my fuel cap at Daily Waters Servo, so if any Aussies are travelling through there, if they want to pick it up and post it to me, it'll be all right.
So we made it back here, and we're also sitting here with Mr. Brad Smith, and I hope that a lot of you have seen Brad's videos on YouTube. Tremendous videographer with a huge amount of experience in archery, and I know that you're not going to spend any time talking about yourself because you don't like doing that, but I think it would be fair to say that you might be the most experienced bow hunter on the continent.
Yeah, I was going to comment with that.
But if you think about it,
what would make you think that?
Because Aborigines didn't shoot bows, and modern archery is relatively new in Australia.
Yeah.
And you're not a spring chicken, but you're still out here hooking and jabbing. Like you've been shooting a bow a lot and hunting with a bow a lot, and I don't know if anybody's done it more than you on this continent. You ever think about that?
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that.
Yeah. And that doesn't surprise me a bit.
Every time I ring Smithy, for as long as I've known him, it's like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going for a hunt here. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm going for a hunt here. I'm going to shoot targets here.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a guide here.
Yeah.
To live and breathe it. Like,
Yeah, you've got a bunch of experience with a bunch of different species here and around the world, and I think that that's pretty special. Something that is unique about what you guys are doing here at Kayuga Adventures at Strathburn Station, which this is a 600,000 acre cattle station that, again, is very remote. You know, you're 6 hours away at least from a legitimate town, and you know, a lot of that's dirt road, right? So very remote, but you've got this little hunting operation going on here. What I think is tremendously unique about what you're doing is the experience. The foundation of the experience here is about education, in bow hunting, and you have an intro to bow hunting course that you do, and I'd love to talk about that a little bit. But even for me, where I've been bow hunting for over 30 years. I've been shooting a bow my whole life, since I was knee high to a grasshopper, and I'm learning so much from you two, from all the guides here. Every time I go out, I'm learning something that I can apply to hunting elsewhere in my life. It's hugely valuable to me.
Yeah, but I don't think you ever stop learning. You know what I mean? Like
hopefully not. Yeah.
No, it's one of those things you just. Every time you go out, you see something different, or you see someone do something a little bit different to what you do, and you soon see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And the same with all the gear they use, you soon see what works.
Yeah.
And what doesn't. So it's just one of those things. But when you're doing it, and just getting back to it, like your 3,000. This is off track.
Yeah.
But your 3,000 journey from the territory to here. I just want to ask you how much civilization did you pass, right?
Oh, yeah.
And if you wanted to go and buy what just everyday stuff, could you do it?
So, yeah, we didn't see... I don't think
3,000 Ks, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, 3,000 kilometers, which just to put that into some kind of perspective for people who aren't keen on the metric system, it was over 30 hours of driving, right? So,
yep.
Damn near coast to coast of the United States, right? We didn't see a town that I feel like I could buy a pair of socks in.
Yeah. So, I traveled 6 days in travel and 4 days hunting. So.
I was 8 days of travel before we started hunting on the front end of this.
Yep.
I think by the time I get home from this trip, I'll have pretty close to the number of miles required to go all the way around the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we're... just in latitude, I'm a third of the planet south of home.
Yeah.
And I'm a hell of a long ways west.
No, I only said that because I think, Australia as a continent, it's, and an island.
Yeah.
That you can travel so far, but still be so far away from everything.
Yeah.
And, it suits us because we're away from the city, we're away from people.
Yep.
Right? And then to sit you in a car and travel 30 hours and see...
Not much.
Not much.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Thank you.
So...
Yeah.
Right.
No, and it's not as big of a shock to me as maybe what you guys might have thought that it was going to be, because I feel a lot of similarities to my home.
Yeah.
I'm from a rural place, but nothing compares to this. It's so much more spread out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think if you went to the further north you go, through top of Canada, Alaska, and that'd be very. If you could drive it, if there was a road going through, it'd be very similar.
Yeah, like the Alcan Highway. Has some.
You know what I'm saying?
Similarities to that. Yeah.
Very limited population. The people that are there are mainly very limited residents, and then a lot of people visiting that sort of
in the vehicle start looking there a lot like they do here. You know, there's extra spare tires strapped to them. There's extra gas strapped to them.
Yeah.
You know, they're ready to be self-sufficient for,
Well, you have
those
to be.
problems.
You got no option but to be.
Yeah.
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 You're right.
We're going to talk about shot placement because between the three of us, we've seen thousands and thousands of hunts, and I think if you added up all of our years, it would be a lot. We don't even need to do that kind of math, but between the three of us, we've seen many, many thousands of hunts, and we've seen the good and the bad and the ugly in between. I am oftentimes very much on my own in the U.S. for how I describe shot placement, and I get a lot of resistance for it. Australia and Africa seem to be a lot more progressive about understanding where organs actually lie in an animal. And at the start of this trip here with a hog hunting on Strathburn, you brought in a 3D target, you sat everybody down, you pulled up a slideshow and showed an autopsy of an animal so that people would have, all kinds of visual references for different situations for how to actually get an arrow into an animal so that it dies as quickly as possible, which is the most humane thing you can do as a hunter.
That's how I'll go.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it is. It's. I just think a visual aspect, so people can see firsthand what lays where. It saves me trying to describe it or in a drawing or whatever. So it's pretty graphic, but it is what it is. That's So it's the whole goal of the thing is to put something on the ground very quickly. And if we leave something here overnight, which I hate doing, the chances of something else finding it overnight, the meat spoiling because of our conditions.
Yep. Yeah.
We've just got to, I think a lot of, righto. So I think a lot of today's things, what I see on board, people are still in the past. They're not up with the present, with what's going on, right? The gear we're using nowadays and the amount of the people can do and the amount of people can learn from what's out there with everyone shooting this and shooting that. We should be able to aim a little bit better, understand things a little bit better, and get things on the ground a little bit quicker and better.
So what's the difference between how people shot in the past versus how you expect people to shoot now?
Well, all I know is if you shoot stuff through the shoulders and keep things under halfway through the shoulders, in that bottom third, you don't have to wait an hour to track them. You're nearly seeing everything fall over.
Yep.
The only time you won't see anything fall over is if you're in thick country or it disappears over a rise and you can't see it hit the deck. But once you've shot a certain amount of critters, pretty much know what's going on.
Yep.
For someone to say, I smoked it, and this is what we see all the time. Yeah, smoked it. And then the next thing is, it may be a little back. We'll give it a couple of hours. It doesn't do bow hunting. It doesn't do anyone any favours. It doesn't do that critter any favours. You just bring that shot a little bit forward onto the shoulders and use the proper gear. It's done. It's a 6 second. It's 6 to 20 seconds, and it's done.
Yep. So when you're talking about the shoulder, there's a bunch of parts to the shoulder, and people don't understand that, right? So you've got the humerus bone, which I don't think most folks know how that thing actually functions.
Yep.
You've got the scapula,
Yep.
which is also probably not in the place that people think that it is. And then the actual meat of the shoulder that's covering ribs, right?
Right.
And that meaty section is what we're talking about.
Yeah, that central ball of muscle in the middle of the shoulder.
Yep.
The scapula or the shoulder blades towards the front of the shoulder. The humerus runs off the bottom of that shoulder blade, back across the bottom of the shoulder, and that bottom third of the chest. Sort of covers a bit of the heart and connects to the leg bone, runs down the leg.
Right. So you're talking about coming straight up the leg, a third of the way up the body on a broadside shot.
Yeah, if you can. The biggest misconception what people get and they don't understand it is if that the nearest leg to you is either forward or back, or the both legs are together. It's something to keep. You need to keep in consideration what's there. If you don't do that, you could be in for a little bit of a blood trail or a long wait, or then the roller coaster starts.
So
Yeah.
if those legs are forward or back, and this is something I've heard Maddie talk about, those legs create a V,
Yep.
right? And that V is
Yep.
going to point
Upside down V.
an upside down V.
upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
It points. There's a if V's, if you're going to reverse that and follow the inside of the back side of the near side leg or the back side of the far side leg, and it's an upside down V.
Yeah.
It points to where you need to be aiming.
Like an arrow. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
1/3 of the way up on the upside down V.
If you
Crack
pump
it through
if
that.
you pump an arrow through there, honestly, it's happy days. Good blood trails, recovery's fast. Meat recovery, you're recovering a lot more meat.
I think a big thing too is what Brad's shown me over time as well, is once you start breaking critters open, and I know over there everyone has to grab the meat and take them, but if you break that shoulder open first and actually look at the internals before you start the other process, you get a picture of where everything is.
Right. So like when we were buffalo hunting, you were actually carrying a Sawzall with you. So after I got my bull, we pulled out that Sawzall and cut open those ribs so that you and I could both look at it and be like, okay, this is where all these organs lie inside of a water buffalo. Like,
Yeah, and I was really surprised. I know the lungs wrap the heart a bit,
Yeah.
but I was surprised how much the lungs wrap the heart.
No, they cover
on
it.
them.
Mate. They nearly cover it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know. They
Yeah.
they cover it.
But it was good. It was just that's what you learn,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the thing with I've heard other people say, oh yeah, I used to aim at the heart, but it's such a small target. Now I just aim at the lungs because it's a bigger target. And it's like, well, the lungs wrap around the heart.
Yeah,
the heart sits at 6 o'clock, right?
You can't get the heart without getting the lungs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's one of those things,
Yeah.
mate. But what I'm getting at here is like for most of the stuff we shoot, like I love hunting deer,
Yeah.
right? And I love hunting boars.
Yeah.
80% of what I shoot at moves before my arrow gets there.
Mm.
So, and this is not just me picking a figure out of the air. This is what I video pretty much everything that gets shot here, or everything I see gets shot, I video. If I don't see it get shot, I don't video it, obviously.
And you video it in slow motion.
Righto. So I can see from the footage that I've taken over 30 odd years that 80% of the boars, 80% of the deer move at the sound of the shot or the arrow travelling through the air, whatever it is, they move. So my way of thinking is instead of aiming at the centre of that kill zone, and 80% of that kill zone is going to disappear down below where you're aiming, why not aim at 6 o'clock where the heart sits? I'm going to say heart because we say ticker here in Australia. Like
I know
where the heart sits.
Yep.
So why not aim at 6 o'clock? If you hit the heart with an arrow, that animal is in trouble. That heart cannot function properly.
Yep.
Okay? Is if they drop down, decide to jump the string, drop down and twist away, and your arrow hits a bit higher than where you're aiming, well, it puts you up in the top of the heart, which is even better, into the bottom lobes of the lungs, and you've got the lungs to play with. Depending on how far the shot is, how much they drop, their quick reaction time, it just makes sense for me, to aim at that a little bit lower.
So the direction these 80% of animals are moving before the arrow gets there is down.
It's down first, but they drop. It's like they drop and they spring away. So they drop and they twist away from the shot.
And you've had pigs get up, and you've got video of this, get up out of their bed and leave before an arrow can get there.
Yeah, plenty of times. It's but that's one extreme where you probably shouldn't be aiming at 6 o'clock because they can't drop. They can only rise.
Right.
So you're better off aiming centre or 12 o'clock if you can. Half the time, if they're in their beds, we need to hit them in the dirt line anyway. So that's a very touchy. It's not straightforward when they're bedded.
And folks, when these guys are talking about the dirt line, one of the things that we're coming up against here is we're walking along these creeks that are drying up because we're kind of coming into springtime and we're not to the rainy season yet. It's very, very hot, very humid. Pigs can't sweat, so they're laying in either in wet sand that they've dug out or down in mud, and the stalks in the middle of the day ideally are on these pigs that are bedded. When you're saying dirt line, because part of that animal is below what you can actually see, you're talking about aiming at where pig meets dirt for you visually.
Yeah, it's not it's not a flat bed
Yeah.
in a lot of circumstances. Sometimes it is, but this is where it comes in. You've got to weigh up that option of where you need to be aiming. A lot of the times, if it's in soft sand or mud, there's a lot of that critter that's below the surface.
Yep.
All right, so that's where a good pair of binoculars come in. They dig these beds, and you've got to understand what lays beneath, right? So, and it depends on if they're twisted onto you, backbone is laying towards you, or they're angling away from you. The spine is angling away from you. So you need to take in consideration how low you need to put that arrow.
Yeah.
And what you're shooting through. Like if you're shooting through sand and leaves, chances are that's not too bad, right? With the gear we use.
Right.
And the gear we like using is a solid 2-blade broadhead cut on contact.
Yep.
And single bevel, preferably.
Why single bevel? I think people have heard me beat up single bevel for torque and bone, but say more.
Right. So single bevel to me is, since I've been using single bevels, and since single bevels have become a thing, recovery the next day in these conditions we're in here. So when I say the conditions we're in here, what I hunt mainly is boars in northern New South or northern Australia, or down home in the hills, and deer throughout Australia. So, and we've got wild dogs over here that can play havoc with any blood trailing. So you hit something back a little bit, and you think, right, I'll come back in the morning. It's like you're dealing with coyotes over there.
Yeah.
You know, you trying to claim some meat the next morning, fuck, there might be nothing left.
Yeah.
Right? Or a dog comes in, smells a blood trail, comes in, pushes, lifts that animal up. Then you've got a blood trail that I hate seeing blood, like pooling blood. Pooling blood means it's not a good sign to me. Like, I should find a dead animal. If I find pooling blood, something's gone wrong.
Right, because an animal stood there, bled for a while, and then took off again.
Yeah, it should be dead.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, fair enough, I might kill it within the next couple of hours, but, that's not the goal. So my goal is to kill something as quickly and humanely as possible, right?
So how has single bevel changed that for like follow-up days?
Righto. Single bevel deals with bone way better. Single bevel with hitting behind the crease, hitting stuff a little bit further back, seems to deal with stuff a little bit better. As it's twisting motion as it goes through a critter in the soft tissue. I don't know what it does, but those critters hunch up more.
Yep.
And my success rates the next day have gone up 25%.
Because it's a spiraling cut.
It is. It's a looser cut. So when that cut does not line up flush together, like it can't, that meat cannot blend back together as good as what it can with a single bevel is just a looser cut.
Yep.
I don't know how else to explain it. The only cons with a single bevel that I've seen is edge retention, right? And that was a factor in when I started mucking around. I haven't chatted the edge of a blade in a long time now.
Yeah.
And I've hit a lot of bone. When I say hit a lot of bone, and I'm not hitting the shoulder on the way in, I'm hitting the shoulder on the way out. That's I'm aiming for the shoulder on the way out. If I can bring it out through the opposite shoulder, that animal's in trouble as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And if I keep it under a certain height,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm under the spine, that means I'm in through the chest cavity. He's in big trouble.
Yeah.
But, if you cut yourself with a scalpel or a razor sharp, the blood comes out, you can push it back together. But if you come from tradie, if you cut yourself with something that's one-sided, edge, burr, or, and you can't put it back together and it just bleeds.
Right. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a lot of one-sided edges. Basically, everything that cuts wood is single bevel.
Yep.
Like everything is based off of a chisel.
Yep.
So if you look at a circular saw, that's just a bunch of little chisels going around. They're all single bevel. And I think there's a misconception about how sharp they can get. Like, I can shave with mine. I can take one that I now have 4 pass-throughs on different animals on this trip,
Yep.
and I can shave with it because I touched it up a little bit this morning.
Yep.
And when I say a little bit, I mean I spent a solid like 3 or 4 minutes on it, you know?
Yep.
And it's ready to go. That's incredible. And I tried hard to get away from the throwaway culture of stuff. Like, I like a real knife. I don't want to see people throwing blades away. I want them to have a knife that they take care of their entire life, and they pass it on to somebody else. Imagine if I could do that with this broadhead, right? Imagine if I can continue hunting with this broadhead and finding it, you know, on the other side of every animal that I hunt, and I can put this thing in my will.
Yeah.
And I can write down, like, hey, I killed 16 animals with this. Like, I fed families with this broadhead, and now it's yours. Don't lose it. You know?
If you keep hunting here, bud, it's going to get lost.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, but
is.
Matty's saying it is. Like, the broadheads these boys are doing, like, I've always said you'll shoot them till you lose them.
Yep.
That's what it is. Like, the first one I shaped up that time.
Yep.
I shot 28 critters with it.
Did you?
Yeah, and then I lost it I shot through a bore, and it went into it was bedded, went through the bore into the bank, and then the bloke I was with, Rodney, he just said, you must love that broadhead, Smithy. I've just spent 20 minutes digging out this bank trying to find this broadhead. And I thought, well, mate, it's got it was a prototype, right? It was what I've tried to do with 2 broadheads that. And I like shooting them. And when Kayuga designed that trizite, I'm not a 3-blade fan. I can understand the benefits of 3-blade. Compared to a 2-blade, 3 blades hold their line a lot better.
So they go straighter through the animal.
Yeah, they do. There's no path of least resistance. They don't duck off one way or another.
Yeah. Okay,
they seem to hold their line a lot better.
How much pressure does it take to push a broadhead through that fighting pad?
If you shoot a cut on contact, depending on the thickness of the metal, it's single digits in pounds with a Zot, right, from Kayuga. You go to a pilot cut, which is got a lot thicker tip.
Yep.
And a different style of tip. It's 12 to 13 pounds.
Okay.
If you go to some modular blade broadheads, it's 50 plus.
50 plus pounds.
Yes. So.
Tell me about what muscle twitch does to arrows.
It grabs an arrow like the flex of a muscle. It's resistance on that arrow passing through something. Okay, so it's like it can grab an arrow as you're going down. That muscle twitch will grab, twist, pull down, and it'll your penetration will suffer a little bit.
I was watching the slow motion video of the water buffalo I shot, and even though I think you were filming at 60 frames per second, so it's not slowed down that much.
No.
But you can still see that before those fletches get to the skin, which is where they stopped, you can see the muscles in that shoulder
ripple
move and start to arrest. And I think a lot of arrow breakage is probably broken from that muscle twitch.
Oh, it's got to play a part in it.
Yeah.
You've seen that chittle that I shot, eh?
Yeah.
It's like I shoot an arrow and you see the lighter knock, and about 6 yards from him, his whole body changes.
Yeah.
It's like a wave goes through his body. He either tenses up and he's starting to drop and twist away.
At 6 yards.
No, he was 25, but the arrow was probably 10 to 6 yards from him.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
By the time his reaction time,
if
that makes sense. And it zipped through him. Yeah. But it does, like I said, it plays a part. And when I see so much stuff in the stage shot with mechanicals, I'm thinking, there's so much arrow showing, I can't understand where they hit him. It's
No, it's amazing to me that people continue to do it, and I think that there's a number of reasons, right? Like there's been some powerful but dishonest marketing that's pushed them, and a lot of people don't either have access to a professional at a bow shop, or they don't want to take the time to do it, and they think, well, I'll just shoot a mechanical because then I don't have to have my bow tuned properly.
Well, that's one.
That's it. That's one.
Yeah.
But you're not doing the critter any favours by not having your bow tuned.
Look, I'm not trying to defend
No,
it.
no,
like,
I know.
I've been fighting the war.
Wait, no,
okay,
the thing about it is, right, I can tell you now, because that block, right, so just say with the deer, my experience with deer hunting, right, so over the years where I've guided hunters, I've seen a lot of stuff get shot with 2-bladers, and the ratio with 2-bladers to 3 and 4-bladers is probably 50-50, because here in Australia, it's either you shoot a 2-blader or you shoot a modular blade, like a 3 or 4-blader.
Yeah.
That's what it is. To this day, the quickest kills have been with a 2-blader.
Yep.
The best blood trails have been with a 2-blader, right? All that tells me is that it's to do with shot placement, because if you put a 3 or 4-blader through the same spot on a broadside animal compared to a 2-blader, if it's got an extra cutting blade or an extra 2 cutting blades, I ain't gonna. What cuts more? The 3 or 4-blader definitely cuts more.
Right.
So realistically, I should be seeing better blood trails. I should be seeing quicker kills with 3 or 4-bladers. But if it doesn't get in there, the amount of exit holes I see with 2-bladers compared to 3 and 4-bladers is way up.
Right. So I think of that cutting as like as square footage, basically.
Yep, it is, mate.
So if I've got 3 blades that are, going in a certain distance, then, we can calculate this. Like we know what our cutting diameters are, and like it's pretty easy to figure out. So if you have a 2-blade single bevel that is rotating as it's going through, so you've got a spiral cut that's really long, and it's doing a lot of damage. So talking through some of the critters that I've shot here this week, right? The first pig I shot, might have went 8 or 9 yards, right? That was over probably in 3 seconds.
Yep.
3 seconds being on the outside before that animal was dead and not moving anymore.
Yeah, it was passed out.
Yeah,
bleeding out.
Right.
Yep.
So kind of as good of a situation as you can get there. That's happened to me multiple times this week. That happened to me with my water buffalo as well, right? And these are all shots that went through both main lobes of the lung and through the top of the heart with this single bevel broadhead that I've been shooting since 2017, long before I ever knew you guys, right? Yep. I started out shooting 175 grain pilot cuts. Now I'm shooting 150 grain pilot cuts. This is the second generation of it, which show up sharp. Thank baby Jesus. Love that so much. And I do not use the bleeder blades. I put the little filler blade in there, and they have been extraordinarily lethal. I don't understand why people would accept a broadhead that has a potential for failure. I don't understand that mentality at all.
Yeah, what I think what I was getting to with that example was when I shot a lot of deer with those 2-bladers, the reactions of deer compared to shot with mechanical or with something with more surface area, the deer seems to run a lot further.
Right.
Like a 2-blader, you slip it through the ribs, slip it through that wind's starting to pick up at ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you slip it through the top of the ticker or the lungs a lot with chittle deer or axis deer, as you know. My experience is that they've run 20, 30 yards and stopped and looked around wondering what's happened. And then within seconds, they're starting to sway and they hit the deck. With a lot of the other hunters that I get there, they hit them and they hammer. Like they know they've been hit, they know they've been stung by something, and they bolt, they run.
Right, because they're feeling more force.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot more force with a lot more blade contact.
Yep.
It doesn't just slip through them as easy.
So they're having to resist that energy transfer a
Well,
lot
it is,
more.
yeah, and that's what
Yeah.
I think it's dealing with a lot more bone too.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, the two bladers I use, like, I'm aiming for that opposite shoulder and I'm hoping to hit it, but it's a lot of times you just slip through, you're just hitting nothing but you might slip between the ribs, you might crack a rib, whatever, but that's the difference between something running 20 or 30 yards to something running 70, 80 or 100 yards.
Yep.
At full steam, you know.
Yep.
And like, we watch it all the time. Like, I'm obsessed with watching stuff, YouTube, with watching whitetail, because I learn from how you hunt whitetail. I learn from how you hunt elk. I transfer what you do with whitetail to our fallow, what you do with elk to our red deer. To me, I can see a lot of similarities, so
Yeah.
that's why I like watching it. I like seeing what people do.
That's why I want to come back and hunt red deer and fallow.
You know, it's
Yeah.
and I reckon once you do that, you'll think, it'll put a smile on your face, because
Yeah.
it's like, how good's this? Because we can get 2 ruts a year. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
We can go here, we can go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
So
Okay, we've only got 2 subjects left. One of them is arrow weight. I was shooting 632 grains, and that's a lot of what I preach, right? For elk, I like people to be shooting between 600 and 650 grains. Our average shot distance is 23 yards. You will not move your pins. It's going to be fine. Like, everything's going to be fine if you go up to that weight, and an elk is not going to move appreciably any different for the decreased velocity. You're going to be able to hammer through bone. I love it. I'm all about that. I'm also all about listening to your guide, because they are the expert at what they do, right? So when I started planning for this trip, I talked to you, Maddie, and I said, how much do you want my arrow to weigh? And you said between 500 and 525 grains. I was like, so, okay, we're going to go shoot an animal larger than a Cape buffalo, the largest animal on the continent, and we're not going to have a backup rifle, and I'm losing arrow weight. And I was like, whew, I had to take a moment, and I was like, okay, listen to your guide. So I did it. I dropped weight. I went down to 525 grains, and it worked great. I'm curious what are your guys' thoughts, generally speaking, about arrow weights. Maddie.
Yeah, well, I didn't realise you're shooting 600 or whatnot, which would have been fine. But that's usually what we like. You're around the same as what I shoot. Like a forgiving arrow, so as in what I've been taught is a forgiving arrow if you're a few yards out, because I don't hunt with a rangefinder. So if you're a few yards out and you misjudged it a bit, you're still in the kill zone. It's not dropping out. It's not dropping low. You're not missing anything. You're using the right setup, contact, like a cut-on contact broadhead, you're going to get in there. There's just a bulk of muscle. It's the right head. It's the right gear. You're shooting, 70 pound, 28 inches?
Yep. And actually, my 20, 30, 40 pins didn't move when I lost all that arrow weight. So it wasn't until after 40 that my pins needed to change. And I've got a 3-pin stack, so I needed a different tape. But my 20, 30, 40 remained the same.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So basically, you're making a more forgiving arrow.
Yep.
Out of dropping that weight, and you're still buried up into the Fletchers.
Yeah,
the other side.
It was absolutely ample penetration while breaking ribs on a water buffalo.
Yep. Yeah. And you pick your shots. You're not shooting 50, 60 yards. You just pick your shots where you want to shoot them. You wait until you're broadside. You're slightly quartering on your first shot there, and the first shot done it. The second arrow, like we always say, if he gives you another shot, you put an arrow in there anyway. Yeah. And both of them.
Yeah. No, it worked great. So I have no issues with the penetration that I experienced with this setup. I feel pretty comfortable taking the same arrow setup that I have right now, going back home and hunting whatever with it.
Well, you've seen the thickness of the water buffalo skin compared to an elk.
Probably a little thinner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, righto.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably a little bit thinner, and a lot less hair, right?
Yep.
Yeah. A lot less hair.
Yeah,
and
it's unreal.
Brad, arrow weights.
I'm a bit different than Matty. I like stuff a bit heavier. I shoot probably 570. I like between 550 and 580.
Yep.
I just think it just helps a little bit. To me, I look at most of the stuff we shoot. IBO is 5 grains per pound, yeah?
Something like that.
That's
way too light.
Minimum, yeah, but that's minimum what they use, right?
Yeah.
And when I was brought up, if you were hunting big game, you go 10 grains per pound. That's what I was brought up, or when I started hunting, that was a goal. So if you were chasing buffalo and you're shooting 70 pound, you should be shooting something around 700 grains.
Yep.
60 pound, 600 grains. So nowadays with what we shoot, we're not shooting buffalo every day of the week. So if you're shooting something between 7 or 8 grains per pound, across the board, if you're shooting the correct, like a pretty good broadhead, good strong cut on contact broadhead, you're going to handle a lot of situations out there, I think.
Yep.
If you asked me to shoot, if I was going to shoot buffalo with a 600 grain or a 500 grain, I'd shoot 600 every day of the week.
Yeah.
You know, if you're shooting 60, 70, 80 yards, well, you might have to worry about those sort of weights a little bit more. I'm not shooting that distance. What suits me? Everyone's a little bit different, so you got to work out what suits you. But if you shoot 7 to 8 grains per pound, you're going to handle most situations out there.
Yeah.
Without going to extremes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what it comes down to in the end of the day. It's all about discipline, picking the angles, picking your distance, keeping things simple and sticking to your goals or sticking to those angles and distances. Discipline at the end of the day.
Last question. Australia as a hunting destination, underrated or overrated?
Underrated.
Underrated, why?
Because we've got, we don't have a season for anything. If you can hunt it, you got access to hunt it, you can hunt it any time of the year.
Yep.
You don't have a limit on what you can shoot.
Yep.
And yeah, there's so many species held in one type of spot, you know.
Yeah. And a lot of country.
And a lot of country. Yeah.
Mr. Smith?
I think it's a little bit underrated. I think people don't understand what we've got here.
Yeah.
But, you know, this seasons, everyone loves hunting the rut with different deer species.
Yep.
But we've got a variety of different deer that they rut pretty much from January to December. So it's sort of...
So there's always a rut going on somewhere.
There's somewhere, mate. You always chase the rut. If you know what you're on about and you know where to look, you can always chase the rut. And then you got these... Me and Matty partial hunting pigs and boars, so that's in between. You got buffalo. There's a variety of species. You know, we call in a lot of predators as well over here. So underrated, I reckon. Maybe a little bit. You know.
I think so. Last thing I'll say, folks, if you're interested in skilling up at stalking, at walking towards an animal that could probably see you, and doing it in noisy conditions and still getting inside of 30 yards, sometimes inside of 10 or 20 yards. We've pulled off stalks here repeatedly that I would not have thought were possible. And the skills and techniques that you guys are teaching are pretty special. And I don't know if you realize how special they are. So for people out there who would like to be able to learn how to do that, and are willing to put up with some discomfort, like some lack of creature comforts, like, you're going to get lit up by bugs. You're going to be hot all the time. This isn't a bougie hunt. It's not. And that's fine. But if people can put up with that and they're willing to travel the distance to be here, they're going to learn stuff that they didn't think was possible, because that's what I've done.
Well, that's all. That's good to hear, because we had Paddy from Ireland this year come over, and he's right out of his element right here.
Yeah.
Okay. From the northern hemisphere, come into this heat, and he did nothing but smile for the whole week.
Yeah.
Didn't whinge once. Was the last person to go to bed. Was the first up every morning, and just took everything in.
Yep.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It's not easy here. Like it's not easy.
No, it's not easy.
You earn everything you shoot here. You earn. You can't just walk up and expect to shoot something at that waterhole under that tree. The wind's against you. The ground cover's against you. And these pigs have been hunted for 40 years.
Yeah.
Even the bulls here, like the wild cattle here.
Yeah.
You don't get away with nothing. You move wrong, you go to draw your bow wrong. You move too fast. You move your head one way, you sure fly. Swat a mosquito. It's over.
Green ants, baby.
It's a good base to start with. If you're starting out hunting, it's a great base because it's bread and butter.
Yeah.
And if you want to go and shoot a deer, or you want to hunt deer, you've got to get the basics right first. So if you can do multiple stalks, multiple critters, that's what we do.
I disagree with you. I've hunted my whole life. I hunt as a profession. I hunt all year long, all over the damn place. Like, to say that this is for beginners, I think is misunderstanding. You know, I think this is for people who want to skill up at stalking.
Yeah, no,
okay.
it probably is,
It is, yeah.
but it also doesn't give you any false pretenses in what you see and what you see on YouTube or you see on Insta. You come here and you think, oh fuck, it looks a lot easier, you know, when I watch this or watch that.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, like when Maddie said to me, he said, oh, I want to start running some bow on us course up here. Are you keen? And I went, mate, I don't know if anyone's going to travel to Cape York to want to come to a course. Like, it's a fair ways out of the way, you know. It's a long ways out of the way.
It is. It's a long way.
But I never thought about the adventure they could have here. And, like, the friendships, like, we got blokes here hunting this week that started hunting on these courses years ago. Didn't know each other. And, mate, they hunt here, there, everywhere throughout the year.
Yeah.
Now. And it makes these bonds and that. And ever since we started doing it, I'm thinking, and I enjoy the 2 weeks of the courses probably as much as the 10 or 12 weeks we hunt. Or I'm guiding hunters, you know, here and there. So, yeah, he got that. I didn't see how good it could be, you know.
Yeah.
Or how beneficial it could be for people.
So, folks who are interested in Kayuga Adventures, how do they find you?
Yeah, jump on Insta.
Kayuga Adventures.
Kayuga Adventures. Yep, Kayuga _adventures.
There's no R in that, folks. Even though it sounds like Maddie's using one. Kayuga.
Oh yeah.
Adventures.
Does it?
Kayuga.
Kayuga Adventures.
KAYUGA _adventures. Yeah, on Insta or website kayugaadventures.com.au.
Yeah. Easy stuff. There's also a link to that in the podcast description as always. Thank you everybody for following along in the adventure. We are going to continue rolling with a little bit more of it here for a few days, and then I'm heading home to guide elk. Hope everybody's doing well and having a successful season, and thank you guys both very much for your hospitality and everything you've taught me this week.
I just want to take a second and thank everyone who's written a review, who has sent mail, who's sent emails, who's sent messages. Your support is incredible. And I also love running into you at trade shows and events and just out on the hillside when we're hunting. I think that that's fantastic. I hope you guys keep adventuring as hard and as often as you can. Art for the Six Ranch podcast was created by John Chatelain and was digitized by Celia Harlander. Original music was written and performed by Justin Hay, and the Six Ranch podcast is now produced by Six Ranch Media. Thank you all so much for your continued support of the show, and I look forward to next week when we can bring you a brand new episode.